King Edward II of England, who reigned from 1307 to 1327, is often remembered not only for his turbulent and ineffective rule, but also for the persistent rumors and allegations regarding his homosexuality. These allegations were significant in the context of medieval England, where political power, leadership, and masculinity were deeply intertwined with societal norms and religious influences that condemned homosexual behavior. Understanding King Edward II and the historical backdrop in which he lived is crucial to comprehending the broader implications of these allegations. The significance of exploring King Edward II's life and times lies in unpacking how accusations surrounding his sexuality contributed to perceptions of his weakness and ineffectiveness as a monarch. As historical records suggest, Edward's close relationships with men, notably piers-gaveston and later Hugh Despenser the Younger, were characterized by contemporaries as inappropriately intimate, which was used by his political opponents to question his kingly virtues and authority. This is highlighted by the actions of the English barons, who capitalized on these allegations to fuel dissent and justify their rebellion, ultimately leading to Edward's deposition. In the realm of historical illustration, consider the role of medieval chroniclers, such as the famous chronicler Geoffrey le Baker, who painted Edward's relationships with Gaveston and Despenser as morally corrupt and politically damaging. Additionally, more recent historical interpretations, such as those by historians like Ian Mortimer, challenge earlier depictions and argue that the king's fall was due to broader political failings rather than just his personal relationships. The topic is not without controversy. There is ongoing debate about whether Edward's relationships with Gaveston and Despenser were indeed romantic or merely close political alliances misinterpreted by hostile chroniclers. Some historians argue that the focus on his alleged homosexuality has unfairly overshadowed political inadequacies and the complex socio-political dynamics of his reign. These historical discussions are intricately connected to the wider topic of the impact of homosexual allegations on King Edward II, by illustrating how these personal aspects reinforced broader narratives of power and legitimacy. Exploring Edward's life and the speculated romantic entanglements provides valuable insight into how accusations of sexuality could be weaponized in medieval power struggles. Moreover, it prompts reflection on the enduring nature of scandal and reputation in political life, drawing parallels to how, even in the modern era, personal lives of public figures can be manipulated to influence perceptions and outcomes in the public arena. The concept of homosexual allegations, origins and historical sources delves into the origins and documentation of the claims regarding King Edward II's sexuality. This exploration examines how historical narratives and alleged relationships, particularly with figures like piers-gaveston and Hugh Despenser the Younger, were constructed and perceived. The term homosexual allegations refers to claims about Edward II's close male relationships, which contemporaries and later historians interpreted as evidence of homosexual conduct. These allegations were significant as they affected perceptions of his rule and personal life and provided ammunition for political adversaries who sought to undermine and delegitimize his authority. Understanding the origins and sources of these allegations is crucial, as it sheds light on societal norms and prejudices of medieval England. The historical significance lies in how these claims were used politically. For instance, chronicles and writings from that era, such as those by chroniclers like Thomas Walsingham, depicted Edward's relationships as compromising and detrimental to the realm's stability. Two notable examples illustrate this point. First, Edward's relationship with Piers-Gaveston, a nobleman of Gascon origin, was characterized by extraordinary favoritism, which led to Gaveston being perceived as wielding undue influence over the king, an influence that outstripped even that of the English nobility. Secondly, Hugh Despenser the Younger rose to prominence after Gaveston's demise, and Edward's apparent affection for him stirred similar accusations and fueled political unrest, eventually contributing to Edward's downfall. These accusations are supported by some historians who argue they significantly weakened Edward's position, undermining his governance. They argue that such personal relationships were seen as inappropriate and contributed to the wider dissent among the nobility. However, such narratives face challenges regarding historical accuracy. Modern scholars often question whether these relationships were indeed sexual or manipulated politically to weaken Edward's kingship. The controversies surrounding these allegations rest on the lack of concrete evidence and rely heavily on potentially biased contemporary sources. Some historians propose that relationships between men in medieval times were romantic or platonic rather than explicitly sexual. Furthermore, they argue the focus should be on the political and social consequences rather than the personal nature of Edward's relationships. This point connects to the main topic by highlighting how personal relationships and societal views on sexuality influenced political power dynamics, affected the monarchy's perception, and contributed to Edward's eventual forced abdication. Understanding these origins allows for a broader discussion on the manipulation of personal scandals in historical narratives, setting a precedent for their impact on leadership and governance. The phrase "impact on Edward II's rule and governance" refers to the profound effects that allegations regarding King Edward II's sexuality had on his reign and his ability to govern England effectively in the early 14th century. Edward II, who reigned from 1307 to 1327, faced numerous challenges during his rule, not least of which were rumors and accusations of homosexual relationships, particularly with his close companions, Piers-Gaveston and later Hugh Despenser. These allegations were significant because they fueled dissent among the nobility and weakened his authority, at a time when royal power was explicitly tied to images of masculinity and strength. King Edward II's rumored relationships were not simply a matter of personal scandal, but became a political liability. They were seized upon by discontented barons who used these allegations to question his judgment and undermine his rule. His close relationship with Piers-Gaveston, for example, led to Gaveston receiving titles and land, fostering resentment among other nobles. This favoritism sparked unrest and even armed conflict, contributing to the instability of Edward's governance. The Ordinances of 1311, a series of regulations imposed by the barons, were partly a response to the perceived undue influence of favorites like Gaveston. Supporters of Edward II might argue that the focus on his personal life detracted from judging his capabilities as a ruler on merit. Historically, some have suggested that the allegations were exaggerated or used as a convenient political weapon. Nevertheless, these accusations provided a means for his political opponents to legally and publicly challenge his authority, highlighting how personal and political interests were deeply intertwined in medieval politics. Challenges and controversies surrounding this point include the limited documentation from the period, which makes it difficult to separate fact from politically motivated fiction. Additionally, there is the issue of interpreting historical actions through a modern lens. The concept of homosexuality in the 14th century, with its distinct and harshly moralistic views, may not align with contemporary understandings. Ultimately, the impact of these allegations on Edward II's rule is intricately connected to the broader theme of unveiling dark secrets by illustrating how personal conduct and public perceptions can drastically influence a leader's ability to govern and maintain power. It underscores the precarious nature of medieval kingship, where political machinations, personal relationships, and societal norms were all pivotal in shaping historical outcomes. In the context of Unveiling Dark Secrets, the impact of homosexual allegations on King Edward II, the concept of social and political repercussions in medieval England, refers to the broad societal and governmental consequences that emerged due to the rumors and accusations surrounding King Edward II's alleged homosexuality. During medieval times, societal norms were heavily influenced by the Church, which deemed homosexuality sinful. Consequently, such allegations had the power to destabilize not only the personal reputation of a monarch, but also the social and political fabric of the time. The significance of this point lies in its illustration of how personal affairs could intertwine with governance, affecting both the perception and the effectiveness of a monarch's rule. Edward II's rumored relationships, notably with Piers-Gaveston and Hugh Despenser the Younger, were not just matters of scandal, they became political tools for his opponents. These allegations exacerbated existing tensions, contributing to political unrest and rebellions against his rule. Notably, the baronial opposition used these allegations to justify their rebellion, claiming that the king's associations negatively impacted his ability to govern. Two specific examples highlight these repercussions. Firstly, Piers-Gaveston, a close companion of Edward II, was given high status and titles, which angered the barons and eventually led to his execution. His favoritism was perceived as a direct result of their alleged relationship, fueling discontent among the nobility. Secondly, the Despenser War was partially driven by the anger towards Hugh Despenser's influence over Edward, with rumours of their relationship adding a scandalous element to the political conflict. Supporting opinions suggest that these allegations spotlight the vulnerability of medieval monarchs to personal attacks and the innovative ways political rivals could undermine a ruler's authority. However, there are potential challenges and controversies linked to this subject. Some argue that the focus on personal relationships might overshadow other political failings of Edward II, such as his military defeats and financial mismanagement. Additionally, there's debate about the historical accuracy of these allegations, considering the potential for bias in monastic chroniclers' accounts. This point intimately connects to other aspects of the main topic by demonstrating how personal reputation could impact political stability. Allegations of homosexuality were not only a personal threat to Edward II's honour, but also a significant factor in the political machinations that ultimately led to his abdication. This intertwining of private rumours and public power in the reign of Edward II exemplifies the often precarious balance between personal life and political duty in medieval monarchies.